Okay, so there you go. I think we're live. Welcome to another broadcast. So glad that you guys are here. Today is April the 17th, 2026. Wow, we are halfway through April and we are, next thing you know, before you know, we will be in May. So glad that you guys are here. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. It was a long week for me, Jack. It was a long week. But I am so glad to be here. And most importantly, I'm so glad to be here with you. Well, today we're going to talk about a topic. This is going to be yet another one of those very mature topics that we're going to delve into. And as I said in the description, if you are an individual who, you don't like to be really challenged, you like your echo chambers, you want to be, in a space where, it's an echo chamber for you, where there's no challenge at all. If that's the case, for you, it's okay. Then I would suggest that you go find your echo chamber. Okay. Go find your choir, whatever you want to call it. It's totally fine. But here we are very interested and very purposeful in wanting to move forward and wanting to build upward. And in order for us to achieve that, we have to be willing to look under the hood and look at what's clanking and what's causing the problems and all of that. And that's what we do, and it is not about taking this side or that side. The only side, it's not really a side, so to speak. I would say the underpinning of a mature adult conversation should be truth. And so that's what we stand on, is truth. It's not about, this or that or whatever. So both sides in this conversation this evening are going to be challenged. I assure you of that. Okay. But yet we're not going to leave it there. We're also going to look at what are the things we can do to fix the problem. I want to fix the problem. I don't want to just sit up here and just talk about what's not right. In fact, I was talking with someone this week, and I was just saying how, I just was having a very difficult time in, doing videos. I'm always going through that because it's like, man, I just feel like sometimes I'm just on repeat on certain things, but here we are. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to get into. And we're going to go ahead and do that. Today is Friday. Let's go ahead and get with it. We'll be starting in about a minute. Okay. We're just going to give people time to get on. And we're going to jump right into it, y'all. All right, another 10 seconds. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Today is another beautiful day out here in sunny Arizona. I think the temperature today, we are at a high, I believe, of 80 something. Right now, we're looking at 82 degrees. Sun is up, and I'm noticing that it's staying lighter longer. So, man, Whoa, I love when the sun is up longer because we're sun people and we need to make sure we're getting as much sunlight as we possibly can, safely, but as much as we can. Now, I'm emphasizing that, y'all, listen, I stay on that line every video I do, don't I? Regardless of what the topic is, when we delve into these issues, particularly dealing with black folks and our issues, what do I always bring up? I talk about that as sunlight exposure. Sunlight, it does amazing things for the body. It addresses things like depression. It addresses things like high blood pressure. It addresses a whole bunch of things. Part of the reasons why we are having some of these issues is because of the fact that we are staying indoors like everybody else when we should be outside. Okay, so sunlight exposure is one of the many reasons why we're seeing a lot of the issues that we're seeing within what we call the black community. I did not say that it's the main reason. I said it's part of the reason. Another thing is our diet, and we've talked about that in great explanation across many videos, not just many videos, but we've also built an entire business to address it, okay? And that business is, and you know it, Samba Tree, sambatree.com. Y'all listen, we've covered many of the things, what we cover on Samba Tree. I'm just gonna bring this up right quick. Here is another thing that we just introduced today. Well, last week we introduced this. The banana leaf is also known as the insulin plant. So if you're someone that is dealing with blood pressure or sugar, or rather diabetes, there are a number of things within nature that will assist with that. The problem is you got so many people who believe that the pharmaceutical companies are for your good. The truth is they are interested in one thing, is keeping you as a permanent customer, okay? That's not us here. We want to see people get healed. We want to see things like diabetes and high blood pressure get eliminated. And we're committed to that it can be done, and it has been done naturally, okay? So here's just another one of the things that we have at Samba Tree, and it's the banana leaf tea, and it addresses that. We didn't say it's going to completely heal you now. I got to put that out there, the footnote out there before they come after me. But it is something that will address it. Make sure you check that out. Now, let me bring this up. This is all related to what we're going to be talking about today. Celery. Now, this is another salt that we offer. Okay, so we got the red salt, Alea salt. We have the black lava salt, and then now introducing we have the hickory smoked salt. We have that as well, and now we have we just introduced this today. It's called celery, and we're gonna look at it very quickly here. Let's go here. Literally everything. I know some of y'all, you just get to the point. This is all related, okay? I know a lot of times when you go on, different, YouTube videos or whatever, and it's like, oh, these are ads. I got to get away from it. The ads that we're doing, when you hear me talking, it's all related to the topic, okay? So let me go here. I'm gonna go salt. All right. So let me go ahead and type that in here, and then we're gonna go right here. All right. So you just salt. Let me go back. Those are all the different salts we have. Okay. Why is salt important? Because we love it. Black folks, we love our seasoning, don't we? Well, we're here to bring a solution to that. Well, when I say a solution, the problem is that the salt that we typically choose is not good for us. If you're still hanging with the Morton's girl, she don't love you. Okay. She does not love you. She takes that salt and literally strips it of all the important minerals that your body craves for. And what we're about is bringing all those minerals back. One of the things within one of those minerals is magnesium. Magnesium is one of those things that your brain absolutely needs. And it's something that is very vacant in our diets. Okay. Anyway, so let me talk very quickly about celery. All right, this is the latest salt here. And I'll just read this here. Not all salt is created equal. French light gray sea salt, or sel gris, has been harvested by hand on the tidal clay ponds of Brittany, France for over 2,000 years. Its signature gray hue isn't just beautiful, it's a marker of mineral richness from the region's ancient clay beds of the Gironde, I hope I'm saying that, region. The natural clay infuses each crystal with trace minerals, including magnesium, calcium, potassium, and trace minerals, trace amounts of iron, zinc, and manganese. Listen, your brain craves these things, all right? And you're going to see why as we get into this. The result is a salt with an iconic briny depth that elevates everything from savory dinners to unexpected desserts. Like people, they use this salt, like put it on chocolate and stuff like that, caramel and all of that. Of course, it's 100% natural, fine grain, unrefined French salt, hand harvested, rich in minerals. Okay, we already know that. And here's all of this. Is it healthier than table salt? Yes. I'm not going to read all of this. You could just go to it, right here on sambatree.com, and it goes through the color and all that kind of stuff there. So this is a new salt that we have just dropped here over on sambatree.com. Make sure you check it out, you guys, because again, this all ties in to what we're going to be talking about today, and that is mental health. Okay. Now, if you've been following us on this platform, we've done videos where we talk about the type of food that oftentimes that we will gravitate towards, just out of convenience. We all heard these stories many times before, and it's not exclusively a Black issue. It is one that impacts everybody: white people, Asian people, people from India, people from wherever. Many of the foods that we all access in our grocery stores are high in a lot of things that our body does not need. Now, when we look at what Black folks are, because that's who we're talking about in this conversation, unfortunately, we lean even heavier on processed foods, right? Again, let me repeat myself. All groups do and take in processed foods, but we're talking about Black folks, okay? And because of that, it has an adverse effect on how we think, how we process things, right? And even our sleep at night, it has that. I'm going to get into a statistic where we're talking about social media usage. I did a whole video on that, but I'm just going to highlight a very important stat on that, okay? And again, we have a solution for that as well. So if you're just looking for someone that's just going to be talking and just, downing one side and other side, we don't have time for that. I don't have time for that, okay? And so what I noticed in this story here, and I'll bring this up here. This is the story that a lot of people are talking about right now. And it's just another sad reality. It's a very sad story, and I'll just bring it up, for those who aren't familiar with it. But this happened recently, and it's this story here is the former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. He ended the life of his wife and himself in a horrific murder-suicide, police say. And I'll just read a little bit of it, and you guys are familiar with this, right? Former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax killed his wife and then himself in a murder-suicide at his home early Thursday, local police have confirmed. Authorities say Fairfax gunned down his wife before turning the weapon on himself during a press conference on Thursday morning. This seems to be an ongoing domestic dispute surrounding a complicated or messy divorce, Fairfax County Police Chief Kevin Davis told reporters outside the home. Davis said Fairfax was served some paperwork related to an upcoming court proceeding that led to the incident. Both the couple's teenage children were present in the home at the time of the killings. One of them was the 911 caller. Fairfax Davis revealed shot his wife several times in the basement and ran to the property's primary bedroom and then took himself out with the same firearm. Davis said that the police had been called to the home in recent months after Fairfax alleged that his wife had assaulted him. He added that cameras set up throughout the property by the former lieutenant governor at some point during divorce proceedings confirmed that the assault did not take place. New footage from the same cameras, he said, corroborated what Fairfax's son told him about Thursday's incident. Officers from the Fairfax County Police Department were called shortly after midnight to the residence where they discovered a man and a woman dead inside. The home belonged to Fairfax and his wife, Serena. Let's see. Responding officers found the woman. Okay, we don't have to. We can kind of spare some of the details there. Let's see. Fairfax, the former Democratic lieutenant governor, served under Governor Ralph Northam and faced public accusations from two women in 2019 who alleged he sexually assaulted them in separate incidents in 2000 and 2004. He constantly denied wrongdoing and resisted calls to resign, maintaining that both encounters were consensual. Fairfax later mounted an unsuccessful bid for governor in 2021. All right, so there's the story right there. So yeah, very unfortunate case there. It's very sad, to hear something like that. Neither you or I were in that house or had, we don't know all the ins and outs of what was going on. We're now kind of Tuesday morning quarterbacking here and, just getting the information as the media is putting it out, But we do know that these things do happen, right? And so let me be very emphatic with what I'm going to say here is that there is no defense for that at all. I mean, if you think that as a man I'm going to defend or going to deflect from something like that, no, there's no defense of that at all. At the end of the day, this man made a conscious choice to do that. You understand? And so it's just no defense of that at all. Regardless of, on top of whatever mental health stuff was going on, at the end of the day, he made a conscious choice to pull that trigger twice or three times or whatever amount of times he pulled it to end the life of his wife and to end the life of himself and right in the presence of his children. And, that was a very, very bad decision. I think we can all agree with that because not only are two lives are gone, but it also has a damning impact on the lives of the children that are left behind. And there's just really wrong all around. Okay. And so, so it's very unfortunate to hear this. Now, as we continue with this, unfortunately, this is not the only story where, we hear of a black female being, her life being ended. There were other stories that have come up, I think, within the last month or so, where we see other black women who have lost their lives at the hands of a black male. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we'll take a look at the statistics. I'm not going to be statistic heavy here, okay, because it's a never ending argument, if you will, when it comes to when you're dealing with people and statistics. I am not saying that the statistics should be ignored or, it's the rock solid or whatever, but we are going to just look at them because they're there. And then we'll continue the conversation. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull that up here. And we'll just take a look at this here. Let's see. We're not going to read the whole thing. It's quite a bit. We'll just get to we'll read some of it, and then we'll get to the bottom line on what it all means. Okay. All right, let me pull this up here. And here we go. All right, here we go. All right, so let's go. The most recent detailed publicly analyzed statistics on female homicide victimization by male offenders is broken down by victim race, including using FBI supplementary homicide report, NIBRS data, comes from the Violence Policy Center's 2025 analysis of 2023 data for single victim, single offender incidences. These provide the closest available proxy for intra-racial rates of the type requested: Black women murdered by Black men versus white women murdered by white men, etc. Because U.S. homicides are overwhelmingly intra-related overall. Typically 80 to 90% in historical FBI data, blah, 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 right? So what that's basically saying there is most of the murders that take place or homicides that take place in the United States, most of it is white people killing white people, black people killing black people, Hispanic people killing Hispanic people, so forth and so on. But there is a measurable percentage where you do see at a much higher rate, Black people killing people who are not Black. And you also see other, to a lesser degree, rates where you see whites killing Blacks. I know people find that hard to believe, but the numbers are there, okay, to support that. The pattern holds strongly for Black victims in particular, and the VPC reports explicitly uses FBI data limited to male offender, female victim cases. All right, so it's going to get into some stuff here. So let me see here. Black females were murdered by males at a rate of 2.5 times higher than white females. Black females accounted for 31.4% of all female victims killed by males, where victim race was known, despite comprising only 14% of the U.S. female population. Yeah, we need to sit on that one for a while, right? All right, let's go here. Context for broader 2023 data. Overall female homicide victimization rates, all offenders, 2.6 per 100,000. Black persons, both sexes, have a homicide victimization rate of 21.3 per 100,000, more than 6 times the white rate of 3.2 per 100,000. Black females specifically had a much higher overall homicide rate than white females in recent years. All right, and it goes there. All right, let's see. We're going to go here. All right, so we just like bottom line it here, okay? In short, the latest available statistics show Black women face a substantially higher rate of homicide by male offenders, predominantly Black men, consistent with long-standing intra-racial patterns, compared to white women by white male offenders, predominantly white men or women of other racial groups. These are empirical rates derived from law enforcement reports. They reflect reported incidences with well-known offender details and do not apply to causation or moral valuation. And then it goes on. All right, so there you go. So is there a measurable trend where we're seeing that Black women are victimized by way of homicide by Black men? The answer to that is, based on the numbers we see, absolutely it is true. So there's no denying that. We have to look at the numbers. It is what it is, right? And so that this is in fact an issue that must be addressed, but it must not be addressed by playing the gender wars. Now, what do I mean by that? So I was on social media, of course, today, like I'm on it on most days there, but you know, lately I've just been quite busy. And social media was flooded with the voices of many Black women who basically was using this as an aha to say that, see, we as Black women, we are in constant danger of Black men. And they went on to, you know, I could show you, it was post after post after post, and Black men, you know, they are the most dangerous people on the earth and we are not safe from them and all this other stuff. So let me share with you just something just to give us some context on when you're on social media, who you are actually hearing. Okay. So for that, let me pull this up here. Give me just a moment. And let's go here. Okay, here we go. And let me pull this up for you. Okay. So we're just going to set the table up here. Now, social media, I've done videos even on this topic as well. When it comes to social media usage in the United States, do you want to know what group leads the way in social media usage? It's Black people. Black Americans actually lead the way in the amount of time we spend on social media. We actually spend more time on social media than white people, according to statistics. Okay. And let's take a look at this. Again, we're not going to read all of this here for the sake of time. Let's see. So they said, in the overall U.S. adult population, women tend to use several major social media platforms more than men, according to the Pew Research Center's most recent data. And this was done in 2025, released in November 2025. Women are notably more likely than men to use Instagram, 55% versus 44% of men. Facebook and TikTok, men by contrast, are more likely to use platforms like X and Reddit. For Black Americans specifically, the latest comprehensive Pew data does not provide a direct cross breakdown of social media usage by both race and gender, i.e. Black women versus Black men. The report presents demographics separately, overall gender differences across all races, and overall racial ethnic differences, so forth and so on, blah, blah, blah. That said, Black adults as a whole show higher social media usage than white adults on several key platforms. Instagram, 54% of Black adults versus 45% of white adults. Black adults are also more likely than white adults to use TikTok and WhatsApp. Daily usage is higher among Black adults for YouTube, 56% versus daily versus 48% overall. TikTok, 31% daily versus 24%, and X, 13% daily versus 10% overall. Those numbers are very important to keep in mind, as we go on with this, okay? Let's see here. I'll just skip down here. In short, the men pattern you remember applies broadly and appears consistent for Black Americans based on the available data and expert consensus. Black adults overall are heavily social media users compared to other racial groups, and Black women stand out as especially active. And then, again, because they don't have exact numbers there, it's not there. However, we do know that Black people, based on those numbers, two things. One, we know that women in general, regardless of race, lead the way in social media usage, right? Secondly, we also know that Black folks, Black Americans, lead the way in social media usage as well. So you put those two together, who are the ones that are the most vocal and the most active on social media? It's Black American women. Now, why is this important? Why am I bringing this up? Because, again, we've talked about this as well. We've done a whole video on this, or videos on this, and talking about what you are actually getting when you're on social media. Now, if for those of you who follow this platform, you know that anytime I do a video where the topic is dealing with Black women, what do I always say on this channel? I literally say all the time, we're talking about specific instances. We're talking about specific cases. I am not in any way, shape, or form holding this case up and saying all Black women are like this. Okay. I go out of my way consistently to say that, because there's always going to be that 1, 2, 10, 20 that's going to assume that just because I'm talking about a small group of people, or a small, like I talk about the 92% all the time, the 92% percenters, they don't represent the totality of all Black women. They don't. So we talk about them as a specific group. Okay. You can do that. Okay. We can walk and chew bubble gum here. Okay. So that's how we're going to address this. So even though what we are getting on social media isn't a representation of the entirety of black women. It is something that we need to focus on, right? So social media oftentimes, and we've talked about this a while back, how there's a difference in interaction when you're interacting with people face to face versus when you're interacting with them on social media. If you're interacting with people face to face, you get the advantage of being able to read facial cues, hand gestures, the tone of the voice, the whole nine. And by interacting face to face, the conversations tend to go a lot smoother. We're not always walking around and arguing and fighting and debating ourselves with each other all the time on the streets. We're not doing that in real life. When we're talking with each other in real life, be it at a restaurant or be it wherever, it's, for the most part, most of our conversations, and I'm talking between other black people, they're just as cordial as any other group, right? It, again, because when we are face to face, a lot of the disarming takes place all the time, right? Now, when you're on social media, you don't have that privilege because you don't get to see the person that you're talking to. So what happens is you get a stripped down version of that individual. And this is why when you go on platforms like X or wherever, a lot of times it's people automatically are a lot quicker to jump into arguments, debates, whatever it is that they're dealing with, whatever anger issues or whatever that they have, that's what you're going to get just in its raw form. So it's very hard and difficult to have any kind of real meaningful conversations on social media because you're not really getting the real person. You're not. So that's why having conversations like this, it can be very challenging and difficult because people aren't really used to it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're on X. So on social media, like today or yesterday and today, ever since the story came out, that's all I was seeing on my timeline. At least it was just black woman after black woman after black woman after black woman that was coming out and saying how black women everywhere are under attack and, and where are the black men voices and all this stuff. And what are you going to say now? And just using it as a way to attack men and to say that men are all of a sudden very quiet on this issue and shame on black men, and you need to do a good job in protecting us. Now let's scroll back a little bit on that, okay? So number one, yes, let me just say this. The number one enemy of black people, based on statistics alone, it's not white people. It is not Asian people. It's not Jewish people. It's not even Hispanic people. The number one enemy of black people, regardless of social economic status, regardless of background, the number one enemy of black people is black people. That is where the conversation needs to begin. That's where it needs to begin. And the truth of the matter is that many people don't want to start there because in our minds, we have replayed in our minds over and over again that white people are the most feared, the number one enemy of black people. That white people and their evil self are just rubbing their hands and like, what can we do to get to these black fools all the time, to trip them up and to get them? And we fantasize as much as we sit up here and we'll talk about how we don't need the input of white people. We don't care about white people. But the truth of the matter is the boogeyman that you have in your mind, that you replay in your brain over and over again, that boogeyman is a white man. The truth be told. Truth be told. And our greatest fantasy a lot of times is one that we're being hunted down and chased down by white people. Because what it does, it legitimizes the status of being a victim. You feel powerless. Now, is it true that white people, they control the society and the system that we're in? For the most part, yes, that is true. But does it mean that you have to accept the status of victim? No, no, you don't. But let's center this again. Let's get back to what I just said. The number one enemy of black people is black people. Now, what I really took offense at when I was watching these different tweets and all of that was the fact that, like I said again, what this man did to his wife was horrific. It was wrong. And one could take as much time as they need to, and you can go through any news feed and you will find many stories of black women being murdered by black men. You'll find many stories like that. But if you're going to take that energy, don't stop with those kind of stories. Now, for you as black women, I am actually going to do you a favor in this video, because I can just as easily, and I have done that, go through this. I have screenshots, I have bookmarks, I collect just about everything, y'all, of stories where many black women have crashed out, have murdered their children. You want to talk about mental health issues? You really want to talk about, let's talk about mental health issues for a moment. Okay. Now, what this man did, there are many people. Someone that is suicidal has a mental health issue. I think we can agree with that, right? So this man, yes, he did some very bad things and he made a very bad decision. We cleared that out, right? So there's no gray area with me with that, right? But we can also agree that anybody that is suicidal is dealing with a mental health issue, period. Okay. And the truth of the matter is there are many people throughout the black community who are dealing with mental health issues. The problem is that a lot of times, a lot of black folks don't like talking about it. So we just let it drift, but we also tend to embrace it as, well, that's just how he is, that kind of thing. Well, if you mess with me, I'm gonna go off on you, that kind of thing. You understand what I'm saying? No, you shouldn't be so trigger happy, figuratively and literally, just because somebody offends you. But this is something that we see that is very rampant within the black community. Again, we are speaking black folk talk tonight. We're talking black people. I don't care about what's going on in the white community. I don't care about what's going on in the Asian community. Tonight, we are talking in-house stuff. Okay, so if you can't handle that without having to, but the white man, this ain't the place for you. Okay, so we're talking in-house. Okay, all right, just want to be clear with that. So anyway, so there are many cases that I can just as easily pull up of black women crashing out on some of the most simplest of things. I have stories that go back. I'll never forget this one particular story of a black woman who it was in Camden, New Jersey, where I don't know how long this was the case, but basically they raided her house. They looked in the freezer, and in the freezer, they found her baby chopped up into bits, and she put them in the baby parts into sandwich bags and just had it sitting up there. Okay. I'm just giving you just some stuff. Okay. That's an extreme case. Okay. But there are many cases. I can really go through it tonight. I really can. I really, really could. There was another story that we covered. What was it? Last year, black woman decides to jump off of the, where was she? At Niagara Falls. She has two small children, takes her two small children, snatches them up, and jumps over the edge, killing herself and her two children. There are other stories I could tell you about black women doing some other horrific things to their children. There are many stories that I can pull up, and I have them on my phone right now, of black women killing their husbands or killing their boyfriends, right? Then we can get into the measurable rate, the increasing rate of black women in same-sex relationships who also there is a growing rate of sexual assault between same-sex black women. Again, you can look all of this up. So those are the ones that are the very easy ones to pick out. Okay, there are many stories we can hang on that if we wanted to, but I'm not going to really hang on that. I'm just simply bringing out, if we're really concerned about the health and the welfare of black women, then my question is a simple one. Why then is it only brought up when this story, like the story we just saw, in this case with the lieutenant governor in Virginia, why all of a sudden it's brought up now that, oh my God, the women are under attack? Which, like we said, the numbers do show that black men have a much higher rate of attacking their women when compared to other groups, right? It's just what it is. But why do we not hear that concern about the health and the welfare of black women when we see women doing some horrific things to each other and to their children? I don't care if it's just one story. There needs to be some outrage, not just outrage, but there needs to be, okay, what can we do to stop this? Because see, where this is going, where I see where this is going, it's almost like, okay, we need to stop what these men are doing. What these men are doing is horrific. Okay, we all agree with that. Okay, the men that participate in going after black women like that is horrific. We can agree with that, right? Okay, so let's say we took a magic wand and we got rid of that. You're still left with this other stuff, right? Let me show you, and I've mentioned this person's channel quite a few times, and I've even featured some of her videos on here. Now, this channel, this is a YouTube channel. This is from a black woman, Black Girl Unlost. Now, if you can stomach it, I mean, it's here. But this is a channel that is ran by a black woman. And this woman covers story after 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 story. Not exclusively, but there are many stories that she covers where black women are crashing out on either other black women or on black men. She uploads at least once a day. Most of the stories here, and then she shows it the other way around where black men are crashing out on women too. But she has many stories of black women crashing out on either on each other, on their children, or on men. So I ask you again, if this is something that is really going on, then why do we not hear cries about femicide for stories like this? Well, why not? Why this is okay? Well, we can get rid of we can get the men to stop, but this is tolerable. No, it shouldn't be tolerable at all. Okay. Let me. What was the other thing I was going to show you guys? My girl, enemy of black people. It was something else I was going to show you guys on this. And feel free to comment, leave comments or whatever in the chat. If you got a question or anything like that, I could field it and take it. I'm fine. We're fine. We can go through this. So we talked about the social media usage. We covered that. I just showed you the Black Girl Unlost thing. Let me get that off. Okay, I got that off the screen. It was just on my mind. Let me, but I tell you what, I know the next thing I'm gonna touch on, but let me just circle back. So again, as I said in early part of this broadcast here, there is a plethora of things that contribute to this mental health crisis, and it is a mental health crisis. It starts in the home. It ultimately starts in the home. And that is where the conversation needs to begin. It needs to begin in the home, not social media. And you may say, well, Dwayne, you're on social media and you're talking about it. Yeah, I am. But the real conversation as it pertains to you, it needs to start in your home. You understand what I'm saying? Because we just made it very clear that the people that you interact with on social media, you're not getting the real person. You're getting a very stripped down, a very raw version of that individual. You're not getting, and these are people who don't really have any investment in your own house. You got men and women who turn to social media for advice from people a lot of times that aren't even married or don't even have children. You understand what I'm saying? So just imagine, so if you really want to know what's really fueling this whole man versus woman and women versus man thing, you literally got two groups of people that they're not giving you the real themselves. They're an artificial version of themselves when they're on social media, because you're not getting the facial cues. You're not getting the hand motions. You're not getting the tone of the voice. You're not getting any of that. And because those things are missing, you're not getting the whole person. This is what I'm trying to say. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a lot of this noise that you hear on social media is coming from partial people. And unfortunately, it's having an adverse effect on families, on individuals, on people's careers, the whole nine. That's what you're getting. And that's why I know for me, I just been feeling very sick to my stomach literally every time when I get on social media, when I see some of this stuff, because I'm just like, man, it's so fake. It really is. It's so fake. I mean, all this stuff like, all we got to do, y'all, we could just come together. There ain't no coming together. Let me help you out, y'all. Let me help you out. Let me help you out. The real you is beyond your skin. Let me say that again. The real you is beyond this earth suit that you're wearing. The problem is that many people, they identify with themselves 100% by how they look. The real you is beyond this. I'm going to let that sink in for a little bit. Because if you are trying to build up an alliance of people that look like you, well, you ain't going to be successful in the long run. You won't. I'm going to tell you that right now. And it will not last. Well, you got, fraternities and sororities. Yeah, you want to get your ass beat all the time just to have friends. That's the qualifier to have lasting relationships. Is getting your ass beat all the time? No. I'm not saying that black folks will never be able to work together. That is not what I'm saying. That is not the takeaway you should have here. What I am saying is that if that is your only qualifier, then what I'm saying is, then you're just wasting your time. Of course, there are many examples of black folks who've had long-lasting relationships and have built things together and all of that. There are many examples of that. But what I am saying is if that is your only qualifier, then you can forget it. There isn't going to be a day where the sky is going to part, and then all of a sudden everybody's going to get a third eye show up on their forehead. All the black people, we all going to look together, and we all going to join together, just like on Avatar when it was around a tree and they were like, oh, you remember, for those of you who saw the movie, it ain't going to happen. It's not. It's not. And what I'm saying is we've been doing this all wrong, and social media has been fueling this. So to take an issue like what we're talking about, mental illness, and to turn it into some kind of a gender war is one of the most ridiculous, the most dangerous things that I have ever seen happen, especially something as serious as this. This is very serious. And I told several people today, I could just as easily go on social media, or not social media, in the news, and I could pull up all kind of reports and say, see, look at what this black woman did. Look at what this black woman did. Look at what this, I could do that all day. But is that going to move any needles? Is that going to fix anything? No. We have to first realize that we have an issue. We have a problem when it comes to mental health. And let me say this again for the sensitive people in the house. I am not saying that black people are the only ones in the planet that have mental health issues. I am not saying that. I am saying that it is a problem, and it's one that as individuals we have to take very seriously. That is what I'm saying. And for us on this particular platform, and I'm talking about my wife and I, we can't really address all of it, but we can't. There are some things we can address, and one of the things we are saying that is low-hanging fruit that we think everybody can relate to is what you put in your mouth, what you put on your body. This is why we keep talking. We stay in the lane of health, natural health, because these are keys, if you will, to put you on the road. Okay, the rest you got to do the driving on that. You understand? The other thing I want to mention too is the church. Oh man, there's a lot I could say on this right now. There's a lot I could say on this right now. What I'm doing now is trying to figure out how can I say what's in my mind right now where it's not as offensive to some people. But I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Let me just say it. And wherever it goes, it goes. But let me just say this. I absolutely 100% unequivocally hate the church. I absolutely hate it. I hate the system. I hate what it stands for. I 1000% hate it. And I'm going to tell you why I just said what I did. And I'm specifically talking the black church. Oh, Dwayne, wait a minute. But the history and all of that. Yeah, that was then. I ain't talking about now. I'm talking about now. You know how over and over again I keep saying that the black church should be recategorized as a black feminist LGBTQ organization? Well, I'm gonna do a video where it's just gonna be one video after video after video after video where members of the black church are confirming that in their own mouths, in their own words. Don't take my word for it. Let them say it. Okay. But here's where what really angers me about the church, specifically the black church, is that it postures itself as a solution, and in many cases, the solution to stabilize what we know as the black family. That's how it has postured itself. But when we look at what the black church has been doing, it is anything but that. And so when we're talking about mental health, okay, one of the places, now this applies to the church regardless if it's black church, white church, whatever. I've been members of both. But I'm going to say this. Christianity, the church, you want to know what place is the safest and easiest place for people who have mental health issues where they can hide? It's the church. It's the church. That is the number one place, in my estimation, where people who are dealing with various levels of mental health issues. It's the church. Now, when I say mental health issues, don't think, I don't know what I do. Don't think in those extremes, y'all. You may just have anger issues, right? You may not be able just to handle your own anger. That's a mental health issues. You may just have ongoing. You may have one where you're just, for example, you just when you feel yourself getting close to somebody, you just cut them off. That's some issues going on there, right? You just it's hard for you to get close to people. For some women out there, or many women out there, this especially may show up when getting too close to a male, or vice versa. You got males who have issues with women. I've talked about that a lot. The red pill, black pill, whatever, that community there. Many of those men, not all, but many of those men they do have women issues, and it goes back to their mommy. Okay? Those are things that we don't want, a lot of people don't want to have an honest conversation about. It goes both ways. But let's get back to the church for a second. So what do I mean by that? So let me give you an example. Someone who's been in the church for decades. You have many people who will go into the church and will say some of the most craziest of things. I have heard people in the church say some of the most craziest things, like, now I'm praying. I'll give you an example. It'll be something like they're praying and they'll say, or after they pray, they say, I'm going to give a testimony. And, we make fun of this stuff. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to show you. I'm going to mention something else to you. I remember now. And they'll be talking to you, and they'll say, the Holy Ghost woke me up the other day and told me to go in the bathroom. And the Holy Ghost told me to just keep slapping myself, because by slapping myself 7 times, he's going to give me the revelation to what I'm supposed to do. And that slapping represents what God, and then they just go on in this thing. And you're supposed to sit up there with a serious face, knowing this person is a plumb fool in what they're saying. We do it all the time. We make fun of this in the church, don't we? We absolutely make fun of this stuff. We'll be, yeah, honey, go, let them use you. Let them use you. And this person is about as loony as any tune. And what do we say up there? Oh, Lord, let them use you. The man can't sing a lick. He can't sing a lick. Let him use you. Oh, and you just and you know this person is off. They'll get up there and say some of the most craziest things. And some people, they'll get up there speaking in tongues, and you heard them say MFer. Let them use you. Hallelujah. Let them use you. Pastor gets up there, or a favorite leader gets up there, and you find out he messing around with some little boys or some little girls or something like that. Well, hey, touch not God's anointed. Do his prophets no harm. All have fallen sin and fallen short. Let me tell you something. It happens. The church is one of the number one places, I would say the church and social media are the number one places where people who suffer from mental health issues, they can go and hide and they can blend in and everything is fine. It is. But it sets itself up as a place where men can go and get help that they need. I call BS on all of that, because I would never send a man to a church to get help. I would never do that. Never. Never. I would never do that. It is not a place, it is not set up for that. So I'm bringing it back to this lieutenant governor guy. Could he have gone to the church and got help for his issues? No. See, when you're going through, and here's the other thing too, and I'm saying this as someone who had dealt with some serious issues, and I'm talking like going through some serious depression stuff. Again, I've shared that openly on this platform. You can go back, and I'm very open about it. And one of the things it will try to do, it will try to isolate you. So number one thing, and I know I got people that will confirm that. One of the things depression will do, it will try to isolate you and make you think and feel that nobody else understands you. It will do this that's what it does. Nobody understands you. Nobody gets you. So when you're on social media, you're literally conversing with a bunch of people who have that same thought going through their minds, and you're in a full room of people, you're dealing with that. You get on social media and you're touching with other people who also deal with that. What do you think the outcome is going to be? You're in a whole echo chamber of people who feel the same way. Let me share. I want to share this. This is what I forgot, and thankfully I remember. I can't bring it on the screen because it won't, my system, it's just, yeah, it's a different browser, and this software I'm using won't let me. But I want y'all to hear this because I wanted to share this. We're getting back to this thing where we're talking about this trend of black men who have been attacking black women, right? Now, what's interesting about this is that the same people who are rightfully pointing this out are the same people who will hand people like Tyler Perry millions of dollars to use that narrative as entertainment. Let me go through his movies and the narratives of the movies that he's put out, and he's made millions of dollars on this same narrative. In 2018, he came out with a movie, Acrimony. And I'm just reading, okay? I'm just going to read it to you, all right? This is perhaps the most extreme example. Melinda Moore spends 18 years supporting her husband while he works on an invention. After they divorce and he finally becomes a billionaire with another woman, Melinda suffers a total psychotic break. The snapping point. After losing a court case to get his new fortune, she sneaks onto his honeymoon yacht with a gun and an axe, determined to kill him and his new wife, ultimately leading to a tragic, violent end. This is your entertainment, ladies. Diary of a Mad Black Woman. This is 2005. This is a blueprint of Tyler Perry's Snap. Helen McCarter is literally dragged out of her mansion by her husband, Charles, so he can move his mistress in. The snapping point. Later in the film, after Charles is paralyzed in a shooting and his mistress abandons him, Helen returns to care for him. Instead, she loses it, screaming at him, throwing him into a bathtub of cold water, and refusing to help him until he acknowledges the pain he caused her. A Fall from Grace, 2020. Grace Waters is a gentle, law-abiding woman who is groomed, gaslit, and robbed of her life savings by a younger man. The snapping point. After discovering her husband has been stealing from her and mocking her, she snaps and beats him with a baseball bat and later faces trial for his murder. The ending reveals a much deeper, darker spiral into trauma and losing it than the audience initially realizes. Oh yeah, we're going to continue. He's got a lot of them here. Why Did I Get Married? 2007, sorry. While an ensemble piece, Sheila endures constant unfortunate events, including her husband, Mike, making her drive across the country because she's too heavy to fly, only to find out he's brought his mistress on the trip. The snapping point. During the group dinner, after Mike insults her one too many times and reveals his infidelity, Sheila finally snaps and smashes a wine bottle over his head, knocking him unconscious in front of all their friends. Here's another one. I Could Do Bad All by Myself, 2009. April is a heavy drinking lounge singer who has hardened her heart against everyone. She endures an abusive relationship with a man named Randy who eventually tries to assault her niece. The snapping point. April catches Randy in the act and reaches her limit. In a chaotic kitchen confrontation, she fights him off and eventually stabs him in the movie, or tosses a hot iron radio into the bathwater. And it depends on the play or the film variations. Finally purging the bad from her life in a fit of rage. For Color Girls, 2010. While several characters have been breaking points, Crystal has the most harrowing series of unfortunate events involving an abusive PTSD-afflicted partner. The snapping point. After a long cycle of abuse, the film reaches a devastating climax where Crystal's partner drops the children out of a window. Crystal's subsequent emotional collapse and the snapping of her spirit is the emotional core of the film's end. Now, For Color Girls, is that Tyler Perry? Y'all correct me on that one. I thought that was the other dude, but anyway. But that's another movie. We'll just say that. And there's other ones too. I mean, there's plenty of other movies too that I can bring up as well. Same thing. So here you got people like Tyler Perry that come out with these movies highlighting women going off on men. And it gets framed as, well, you know, when women do it, it gets framed as, well, you know, she just reached her tipping point. And so when I bring up those stories of women going off like that, right, it gets framed immediately as, well, you know, they just reached their tipping point. You know, black women, we have to bear a lot. We have to carry a lot on our shoulders. And then after a while, shoot, we just going to go off on people and we got to have room to do. No, it's still wrong. If you're killing somebody, that's still wrong. That's wrong. That's a crime. I don't care what you're dealing with. That's a crime. And I said the same thing about this lieutenant governor. That is a crime what he did. There's no excuse for murder. You understand what I'm saying? But wait, the system frames it. One group, it's okay because you just deal with a lot, honey. And sometimes you're just going to have to let it go. But another group does it. It's, well, you know, he needs to go under the prison. So, but what I'm saying is both sides, you got issues. Do you understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, how do we solve this? Well, like I said, number one, it starts with honesty. It starts being real with yourself. Some of you right now, you have some real issues that you're going with right now with your spouse, with your significant other or whatever. Those are some very real issues. And hopefully, as you're going through these things, you are surrounding yourself with individuals who have experience, not going a bad experience in it. In other words, if you are a divorcee or someone that's going through a divorce, you don't need to be listening exclusively to people who are divorced themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you could take some input from them, but you also need to be listening to people who may have gone through that, but also was able to reverse it. Do you understand what I'm saying? You need to be hearing from multiple voices. You don't need to be sitting in a lounge somewhere and, yeah, I know these men are just that, you know, whatever. You don't need to be listening, or the other way around. Men, same thing. If you're considering, you know, going through a divorce or separation or whatever, you don't need to be red pilling the whole time. You need to be listening to other voices of men who also were going through it, but then they realized, you know what? There were some things I had to change in me. I realize that now. And man, if I could have do it all over again, I wouldn't have done this, that, or whatever. You got to surround yourself with people like that as well. And what social media does, it removes that and it creates these echo chambers where unfortunately we're only hearing our own voices reverberating off of the walls of this digital space. That's what's happening. And like I said, there are two places in the world for black people where people who suffer from various degrees of mental health issues, and that is the church and social media. Those are the two places where you'll find people who deal with various degrees of mental illness. Again, it's various degrees of it. This is what I want you to understand. It's not just someone who has the inability to communicate or speak. I ain't talking about that. It can be various issues. Like I listened to some of the tweets I saw today. I said, man, these people really got some, I wonder what their relationship with their father was like. I mean, they just really have a hatred towards men, period. And I said the same thing when I see a whole flood of tweets coming through when there's a black women doing some crazy stuff. Man, these black women, they ain't just this, see these black women that or whatever. But then when you start asking, well, what's your relationship like with your with your wife or with your mother? A lot of times it's not good. And you also got issues where, again, if we're going to dive deeper into this, you also got issues where some of these men, they live in their regret, where if they had a sister, they may have done something to the sister when she was younger, where they may have said, whatever, we're going to play doctor or whatever. And the sister had to take that and promise herself and promise him that to never say a doggone thing to mama, to the dad, or anybody else, because she doesn't want to mess things up. I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this stuff. This is real. But people don't want to talk about this stuff. Now the women who hide that kind of guilt and shame, and we're just supposed to go along with that? But we can role reverse that as well. You got aunties, you got grandmothers that have also touched their children too at a young age. Oh no, grandma would never do that. Oh, grandpa, he is such a sweet man. He would never do that. Unc would never do that. They would never do that kind of thing. They would never touch people like that. It happens. Some of y'all right now in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, and you still holding that. And because you've been holding those kind of little dark corners like that for so long, it is almost like wearing glasses, where every time you see a man or anytime you see a woman, you see her or him through that filter, where something was taken from you. Or it may not be that deep. It may not be as tragic as that. I mean, tragic, it's all bad, but it could be maybe you was raised by someone who just hated men or hated women, and everything that came out of their mouth, it was always very negative towards men or women. And it just stayed in you. And so now that is having impact on how you process, your relationships with, men and women. It happens a lot. It really does. And when you combine that with you always on social media, and then your diet and what you're taking in, what you're eating, the low magnesium levels in your brain, low iron, your diabetes, your high blood pressure, the stuff that you're taking in, it is a recipe for disaster. It is. Like I said, we can't address everything on this platform. It's just impossible. But there are some things that we can say, hey, listen, you may want to here's some things you can do for yourself. Let's get that magnesium up, or let's do this, or get that sunlight, do those breathing exercise. We could talk about those things, but the rest, you're going to have to be serious with that. You understand? And as I told you, it's not going to be a popular video, but like I said, I'm looking at it from the whole perspective. And when I saw the direction this was quickly going, with individuals trying to turn this into a gender war, I said, no, that's ridiculous. And then if you notice on the thumbnail too, and I forgot to mention, Mauricio, I saw one of your messages and YouTube did that. Don't think I did that. It hid one of your messages. I didn't do that. I went to mention that because I was looking down. I was like, why hide our message? And that wasn't me. That was YouTube did that. So you good. If you look at the thumbnail, you see there's someone else sitting next to the woman, and that is, it was a gay man. Yes. We're not going to forget the gay men now, because you got a lot of gay men that have been partnering with these women and throwing these same accusations towards any masculine male. But if we dig deeper, we got to start asking those same questions too. What got you to that point? What got you to the point to make you feel as if you're something that you were not born? You weren't born as a woman. You were not born as a woman. Why are you wearing a bra? Why are you wearing makeup? Why are you trying to wear a dress or a blouse? You were not born that way. You were not born as a woman. You were not. Or telling these young ladies, you weren't born as a man. You were not. There's something that is off with that. And the fact that we have people who co-sign on this stuff is ridiculous, because that lifestyle is attached to the same people, trans, LGBT, that T. These are people who believe, who will go to the length of literally cutting, I've told you, and I'm going to keep saying this, literally cutting their breast off, going to a doctor and having their breasts cut off, having the skin peeled off of their forearms and off of their thighs so that they can have body parts. Does that sound like a mentally stable person to you? But yet you have individuals that will be like, you go girl, you go girl. Oh, you working that, you working that. But you ignore the skin that was peeled off of some of these people's arms. Some of these people, not all of them do it, but a lot of them do. That's normal. You normalize that. We normalize abortion. We normalize, oh, you don't want a baby? Fine, just kill it. Get rid of it. We normalize that. And who per capita is leading the way in that? So again, you want to talk about mental health issues? That's a big conversation. All I did is brought a little kindling wood and a little match, and that's it. But the rest is up to you. Because there are many places we can begin with this. The fact that we have allowed this system to tell us, to convince our women that it's okay to kill your unborn child. There is something demonically off about that. The fact that we have black women who are celebrating a black woman in the Supreme Court, when she was asked the question, define a woman, she said out of her black mouth, what is a woman? I can't answer that question. But I'm supposed to celebrate that. I'm supposed to celebrate the fact that a black woman can't identify what a woman is. But yet I'm told that the black woman, she is the mother of the earth. How can you be the mother of the earth and you can't define what a woman is? Help me to make that make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make any kind of sense. You can't do both. But I'm supposed to be okay with that. No. It is wrong. It is wrong when we are encouraging, we have whole entertainment systems where we're clapping our hands when we're seeing men are out here acting like stuff that women. That's wrong. Same thing with women acting like men. That is wrong. You're using the Bible. Screw the Bible. I ain't talking about the Bible. I am talking about just what we see with our own eyes when we look at nature. When we look at nature, when we go down the list, you don't see birds all of a sudden, the men birds all of a sudden trying to rip their wings off and saying, well, shoot, I'm tired. I identify as a giraffe. Let me take these wings off. You don't see that. We're the only species that have adopted this level of mental illness, and we've normalized it. We're the only ones that do that. And as black folks, we can beat our chests all we want. We are the founders. We are the center. And everybody looks at us. Well, we sure enough ain't doing a good job in being leaders in this. We're not. And we have to be honest with ourselves on that. This is a real crisis. I don't care what white people are doing. I don't care what Asian people are doing. I don't care what Hispanic people are doing. Yep, they are some very bad examples in their numbers and whatever. But I'm not going to use their numbers to normalize our foolishness. Do you understand what I'm saying? We should be setting a high bar of example. But instead, we tell the system, well, in order for us to do that, we're going to have their reparations money, and then we'll figure it out. No, start now. You sit on the shoulders of ancestors who had nothing, but yet they were able to keep their house clean. They was able to keep their streets clean. They was able to have a high expectancy for their children. They had a system worked out where they looked after each other's child. They had all of that and had nothing. Now, all of a sudden, in 2026, you can't do half of that unless you got white man reparations money. Now, tell me if that makes any sense. It doesn't. So these are things, like I said again, and I'm done. It starts in the home. These issues here, it begins in the home. That's where it begins. And this is what I am encouraging each and every one of you to do, is that's where it begins. Don't allow yourself to engage in the foolishness that you see on social media, because you're not getting the real person. You're not. And so my encouragement to you is, like I said again, don't do that. There are very wonderful examples of women, black women who are not falling for this. They're being black women who are honest with themselves. You know what I'm saying? And who are out here are trying to make a difference and trying to help other black women to be honest with themselves. There are many black women out here who are doing that, and they don't fall into that narrative. Just like there are many black men out here who don't fall into the narrative as well. They are out here, they're willing to acknowledge and admit, hey, listen, I need help, man. I need help. I need some strong brothers. I got to talk to somebody, because, man, I'm about to lose it. There are brothers out here. There are men out here who do fall into that. And men, let me tell you this, and I will say the same thing with women. Listen, I know, and this is, I'm going to say this and I'm done. Don't limit the help that you can get to just other black people. Okay, I'm going to say this and then I'm done. I'm going to say it again. Do not limit the help that you can get just to other black people. Because you have other people out here who aren't black, who are very qualified to help. They are. So if you're waiting for the black princess or the black prince to come, who's, that knows it all and can kind of break things down to you to get help, what I'm saying to you is your brain, your life is way too important to be waiting for unicorns. It's way too important for that. Okay? Go get help. Go get the help you need. Find people that have a measurable qualification, if you will, in addressing some of these issues that you can talk to, right? But don't just, you listen to them, but you can also pull from other people too, I'm just saying, don't let color be the bottom line to getting help. You understand what I'm saying? You go to people who have the experience and have been down that road and can talk you through some things, right? You do that. And then your real self, you'll know when, okay, I'm going to need to go over here and listen to this person too. You know what I'm saying? You could do that. You could balance that off. You know what I'm saying? You know that, right? We can all do that. It's okay. You're free to do that, but don't limit it to just, I'm only going to listen to a black person. Shoot, I ain't going nowhere. No, don't think that way. There are a lot of qualified people out there who don't look like you, but they do have the life experience that can help you in many ways. Okay? So this is my parting encouragement to you, because I run across a lot of people who think that way and they miss out on golden opportunities to get their stuff together. Okay? So that's it. I didn't want to spend too much time on that. Like I said, again, it's just I was telling someone earlier this week, I said, it's just so hard. I would love to get on here and talk about rainbows and gun drops and, some of these other things. But the reality is, you sit back and you see, man, it just seemed like a lot of folks, unfortunately, are still just stuck. And this is what happens when your nervous system is hardwired to only see things a certain way, and it just keeps you into this never-ending loop or cycle. And it's time to break out of that, okay? Let's break out of that together, and I'm here to help in any way I can, okay? All right, that's it. That's all I have for you guys. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, check us out over at sambatree.com, because like I said, again, all this stuff we're talking about, on a natural level, we have some solutions right over there for you. Check out that brand new salt that we just released. It's full of magnesium and things that your brain absolutely needs. And we got a whole other line of other salts as well, but not just salts, you guys, but there's plenty of other things as well. But make sure you're eating a balanced diet, getting a good night rest. We had those glasses too, make sure you check out those blue blocker glasses. Why are those important? Because we are the highest social media users. That means that we are taking in that blue light all times in the night. That blue light, it is messing your circadian rhythms off, meaning that your body is trying to produce cortisol to get you to go to sleep, but you're up 2 in the morning, you're trying to figure out, why is it that I can't go to sleep? It's because the blue signals coming, frequencies coming from your phone is telling your brain to stay awake. Don't do that, okay? So those blue blocker glasses, what it does, it blocks the blue light, and it gets your brain back in sync with going to sleep like you need to. All right? So make sure you get, check those out too. Pick you up a pair if you don't have any. So yeah, so we look at all this stuff, y'all. Okay, so thanks again. You guys take care. Really appreciate each and every one of you guys on here. Let me shout out all the people I see on the chat here, and I'm going. Willie Rivers, always in the house. Really appreciate it. Calculated Crescendo. Mauricia, really appreciate you, sis. As always, make sure you subscribe to her channel. Really, she's doing some very good work over there. Make sure you check her out. CTO Drums in the house. Todd Wilson, as always, too. Justice 85 151. Eddie CTV is in the house. And who else we got? We've got Christopher Wilson, W4K. We got Marleyisms. Let's see who else we got. Am I missing anybody else? If I'm missing it, there's another message that's hidden. I didn't do that. This is Abel's Journey. They said zero community, only a black population. Let's be okay. Yeah, so all of you guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate each and every one of you guys. Listen, you guys take care, and we'll be talking again soon. If you got anything more to add to the conversation, as always, put it in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going, okay? All right, take care. See you again soon.